Yes, we're on. We're on. We're live. This is WFS Live Day 4. We've been darting around the world. Already we talked about gender equality plan in our first session, spoke to Samuel Eto'o, a Barcelona, Mallorca striker, Cameroon striker in our second session. Then, of course, we've been talking about African clubs and leagues. How can they make themselves more commercially viable? Now we're going to switch tack and we're heading to Asia. It is World Football Summit. It's good that we're named that. I think it's quite apt at this point. And it remains a region, Asia, where European clubs like to head to attract those young, energetic fans, fiercely passionate about football. But especially in the thick of a coronavirus pandemic, which we still are, I guess an in-person actual tour is clearly not an option right now. So how else do we cater for and infuse those fans in Asia? They want us to be more creative. But examples of that creativity abound. Chelsea have become the first English Premier League club to sign a strategic partnership with Weibo, which is a popular Chinese social media platform. In Germany, you've seen the likes of the real big clubs in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich, holding fan parties, live Q&As with players, fan dinners and competitions, and making that a very digital, social, live offering. In fact, Dortmund embarked on a BVB virtual Asia tour as part of their offering. As far as leagues are concerned, well, LaLiga made the headlines when they sold their live TV broadcast rights in the Indian subcontinent to Facebook. Perhaps the perfect fit, really, for this young, connected generation, eager to be part of the show. So this session is entitled Growing Digital, Asian Fans Call for Creative Engagement Strategies. It's brought to you in partnership with LaLiga. So let's introduce your speakers. The Chief Commercial Officer at Malaysian Football League, Winnie Chan, Director APAC for MailMan, Janna Jauhar, Strategic Partnership Manager at Facebook, Kike Levy, and Commercial Director for so many territories, you can barely fit it on a page. Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, and Australia for LaLiga, Simon Lee. And to guide the conversation, it's a real pleasure to work with this lady once again, founder and CEO at Futbolita, Hashim. So let's bring them all on stage. Ash, a real pleasure to work with you once again. Great to see you, albeit only virtually. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, David, and always lovely to see you, of course. Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and afternoon and morning, wherever you are watching us from. And of course, thank you very much to the World Football Summit for bringing us all together for another important opportunity to speak about key issues in football. Although I have to say it's a very sad day with the passing of one of the greatest players the world has ever seen, Maradona. And of course, speaking of Maradona, his impact on fans and brands even in 2020 is indisputable. Now, today we want to make sense, as what David says, of what's happening in Asia when it comes to engaging football fans, both commercially and digitally via partnerships and also fan engagement. Now, of course, Asia has been traditionally a very important continent for football, and this has been somewhat magnified during the pandemic as fans in Asia or anywhere else are not able to go to games, for example, and more or less we are using digital to connect to our clubs. So, of course, we have speakers from the best leagues and social platforms for fans right here in APAC and Europe discussing this. And I want to start first by examining case studies. With Winnie, for example, we want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Malaysia with the MFL. The Malaysia Football League had some of the most passionate fans in Asia, filling up stadiums pre-pandemic. And of course, gate receipts have also been an important revenue source for the clubs. So from the perspective of a league, in your opinion, what digital or creative strategies did the MFL and clubs have to do to reach out to the fans in the past few months?
Okay, thank you, Ash. Really, it's such an honor to be here with you guys. What I'd like to do is just quickly touch on two things on the case studies. So one is from an MFL point of view, and the other one is a case study from one of our clubs, Football Association of Selangor. When we had to close everything off during what we call the movement control order, that nothing can be done, there was this huge uncertainty on when it will resume, if at all Liga would resume. So what we needed to do is we needed to really fill the hole while we're waiting for the news with something. And the only option that we have is digital engagement or digital content. But we just didn't want to tick the box and say, okay, I've done the digital content without any meaning behind it. That's not what we want to do. So what we did is we brainstormed and we came up with a content piece that shows the fans that, hey, we, the football fraternity, miss you as well. It's not just one way that the fans miss football. The players and the teams also miss you, and we care about you. And, it's not just like no football and zero communication with the fans. So we created a Borak Bola. It's basically a chat room using Zoom between fans and players, and we ran some contests to select some fans, some lucky fans, to be on the Zoom call with players. So the topic really has to be relevant to the current situation, but not necessarily about COVID or the numbers in the spike, because I think we're just sick to death of that. But something that is
Yeah.
relevant to them, and it provides them with a form of escapism, just to show them that we love and care about our fans. It was a great trial, I would say, because we've never really done this before. We did 5 episodes, and we had about 9 players participating throughout the 5 episodes. And we created about 1.5 hours worth of program just on digital alone. It doesn't sound a lot, but on digital, it's just bits and pieces of it. So that's what MFL did. On the case study for one of the clubs, they were, of course, not unlike any other clubs. They had to make sure that the sponsors got the benefits in lieu of the on ground benefit gaps, right? So what they did is they quickly used a lot of their digital content and created special content for each and every one of their sponsors. So, for example, there was FB Live chat with one of the sponsors and the players, Stay Fit at Home with the players, brought to you by another sponsor, Raya virtual dinner that was during Idul Fitri, virtual dinner with the players and the fans, and IG takeover with the captain of the club. I got this information from the club that during the March to October sort of like lockdown, their increment by social media platforms are 17% on Facebook, 24% on Twitter, 58% on Instagram, 723% on YouTube. The total monthly reach is between 8 million to 13 million followers on all platforms. So I think it was such a great case study that they did. They just didn't sit down and think, okay, that's the end of it. We're not doing anything, but they just continued to create engagement with fans.
Yeah, definitely, Winnie. I remember all of that when I was watching the Malaysia. I mean, during that time, during the lockdown, and Selangor, for example, was doing quite a lot with their fans. So I want to move now to La Liga. Of course, a much more global league. Simon, La Liga was very much at the forefront when it came to fan experiences globally during the lockdown. For example, you guys had the El Clasico and the Madrid Derby. So there was a lot of fan videos, live commentary shows, posts on social media before and after the game. So I want to know, how did La Liga's commercial partners carry out these creative engagement strategies in Asia?
Thank you, Ash. It's an honor to be here as well. Just before that, I would like to actually have an introduction at La Liga. We really focus very much on the heartbeat of the game itself, the emotional roller coaster that our fans feel that, when they are watching a match or when they watch a match, but also the passion that radiates, when they discuss about the teams and players beyond the 90 minutes on the pitch. And this is like a special thing here. It's beyond the 90 minutes. I want to reiterate that. So engagement has always been, with our fans, is a multi-way of communication, we believe. And beyond that, telling stories that resonate deeply, especially in Asia, is something that we do especially, where the diverse culture is not just one country, but also very distinct and unique across, let's say Japan all the way to India. So this is something that we really want to take into advantage. In order to examine, going back to examining case studies here, so there are 3 points I would like to highlight here. So one is something that we've done with players, similar to what Winnie was saying earlier on, and then at a club perspective as well in the region. And then I'll go into one of the more specific case studies, I would say, with some of our Asia players, I would say, in Kubo and Wulei. Of course, it helps with the local players. So in the past 3 years that we've been in Asia, we've really pushed the envelope of fan engagement with our understanding of the market, having local delegates on the ground, which is something that, stands out from the rest of the pack, we believe, having the local expert knowledge, and together with our partners and clubs, we've identified meaningful ways to actually connect with our fans, and more importantly, to make them feel very much involved as part of the whole experience, not just watching, not one-way traffic, but also being involved at the deep end of it. So one of the examples, for example, is when we joined the Enfield Takashi Inui in Japan. This is back in 2018, I believe, when he signed with Real Betis, and at the live Q&A section in the Twitter Blue Room. This was the first of its kind of any player signed to a European league, per se, being presented in this home market. It's somewhat different usually. It's not presented in Spain, for example, in this case. And the timing of his rise, his meteoric rise is in popularity was especially after the 2018 World Cup, where he made a very massive, I would say, impression to the Japanese fans. So it was a really natural fit, and announcing him in Japan, whereas at home, being one of the brightest stars of the competition. Another example is one of our clubs in Spain. CD Leganes may not be as well known, but it's across the world. But actual sets. It brought to life our mission of being closer to our fans again, where they flew 16 hours to their namesake in the Philippines, Leganes, as part of the season ticket holder campaign back, I think, 2019-20 season. So together with LaLiga, first team, centre-back Roger Tarin visited the community, a local community, and interacted with the Filipino children, convincing all of its residents to actually, the city team, Kaya FC, to support the White and Blue Cup for next season. This is actually very interesting in a sense, getting the namesake to support the entire club, half of the world away. So this heartfelt gesture, regardless of whether, they were football fans or not, was actually really appreciated by Filipinos, not just in the Philippines, but across the world as well. So this is some positive sentiment as a result of social sharing as well.
So great stuff. I remember that Leganes activation actually, Simon. So Janna, I want to move now to a much more broader scale, particularly since MailMan works with many clubs. So how did clubs that you guys work with deliver the being in the stadium experience for fans? And how effective were these campaigns, especially in Asia?
I guess you can't really deliver being in the stadium, but what we tried to do during this period, proximity between fans and the players, and in many cases we empathize with some of the markets that we are in, about for what they are going through, like third wave, fourth wave. But on a broader picture, Asian fans have never been in the stadium. So Asian fans have always been, we are 10,000 miles away from the actual stadium. You see, so during this period, it was really a time where the rest of the world would probably feel that this is what Asian fans are going through, and we underestimate the Asian fans. The problem that we have always wanted to be there. So being in the stadium for us, in a way, has always been bringing content or even doing virtual parties, and I guess at the end of the day, we just want them to feel to remember that no football was the challenge, not being in the stadium.
Yep.
And for us, we did a lot of virtual tour and virtual parties. One example, PSG did a virtual screening party with fans across Asia during the Champions League final, and I think especially even more so when it's the first time PSG was in the finals. So it was a big thing, and the fact that there was no fan stadium, being able to do it virtually and connecting and looking behind the scene, it is something that makes the fan already feel connected. So yeah. So I guess to reiterate, Asia fans have never been in the stadium. We have always been far away. So it was the no football that was the challenge, and how do we actually manage to keep them entertained throughout this pandemic?
And I guess, Janna, to that point, I guess the platform as well that fans use were very important during this period of time. So Kiki, I'm going to go to you now. At your keynote at WFS last year, I remember you said that Facebook had more than 700 million fans and followers who follow sports teams. So what trends can you tell us from the last 8 months before lockdown and right now? How were fans interacting using Facebook with clubs and players? And did you guys at Facebook see any notable changes in content strategy, for example?
Thank you, Ash. And that big number is why we say we are the biggest stadium in the world, actually, because I don't think there are many stadiums that can fit 700 million people in them. The disruption of live sport came together with something very positive. That has been the incredible flow of creativity that I've seen across the sport industry. A good example could be, for example, LaLiga, that they started to with the Santander Festival, where they did a live concert and putting together a sponsor and driving millions of video views, but not just video views, also raising a lot of money to help people in these difficult times. I think there are many examples, and with as I said, with the disruption of live sports, the alternative content that we have been developed on the platform has been incredible. Like, another good example was FC Barcelona during the lockdown. They were doing live Q&As with players, but not only with players. Actually, the live Q&A that performed better was not with one of the players, was with Mirko Peric, who probably the name is not very known, but if I tell you he's Helsinki Money Heist, you probably will recognize him better. So FC Barcelona was just not doing live interviews with the players, but also with famous fans around the world, and that was very nice. And another good example of how sports has been developing content to keep fans engaged. It's LaLiga with all the archive content they publish, and archive content has proven to be one of the most successful content franchises coming up from the lockdown. So we've seen incredible flow of creativity in the platform, and the numbers are there, and the consumption has exploded as fans were looking for content, and they were hungry for engaging with their teams and Facebook players.
Great stuff, Kiki. Well, I want to go now to strategies for engaging with fans and brands. Now, of course, Generation Z in particular has been a different fan group, with different consumer habits. And ahead of the 2019 and 20 season, many football clubs were actually focusing on the diversification of their fan base, including initiatives to better understand this generation and also seeking increased engagement with them. So this part, we're going to explore a little bit about that. So Winnie, I'm going to go back to you again. I want to ask you, what did the MFL have to do differently to reach out to these new football fans who may have different habits, for example, a shorter attention span, information overload, and super hyper connected, with TikTok and influencers. For example, what did you guys and your stakeholders have to do to engage this group? And did you guys use any specific methods?
Well, when we look at the number of our demographics of the fans, the 16 to 29-year-olds, which are usually your TikTok users, they consist of about 30 to 35%. But most of our other fans, which is a little bit older, like me, we use Facebook most of the time. And we can see that from MFL's point of view, we do have a bigger number of Facebook fans as opposed to Instagram or Twitter, even TikTok. But at the end of the day, Malaysians are still rather shy. There have been times where we asked fans to join a contest, or you do the TikTok challenge and you follow and you ask your friends to join. They don't really do it because they're shy. But what they do is they watch other people do it, and that's why when I see, there's this statistics that says Malaysians spend between 3 to 7 hours a day on social media platforms. Wow. And I'm surprised, do we ever get any work done? No wonder. I mean, I don't spend that much time on it, but do we ever get any work done? Seriously, 3 to 7 hours, that's a whole work day, right? But I digress. What I'm trying to say is, when we look at our demographic of fans, yes, they do consume a lot of content on social media, on TV, and however it is, but they like to share. They rather find the information and they share funny stuff. So we can't rely on fans to create the content for us. We have to create it and let it organically grow. Facebook, like I said, is still the main point of platform for our fans to get news and information from the Liga point of view. But we've tried another way. We have another Twitter account called MFL Live, which is really specifically for my live match updates. And these ones, we sometimes can reach, tens of thousands of views for every goal scored. And people just like those short content, and we are shifting our efforts to that as well. I think what I'd like to say really, for just not just for the people in MFL, but all the other teams as well, if they're listening, content is good. But if your content is not speaking to the fans, you're not getting their attention. My commodity, the way I see it, my commodity is the fans' attention. You can have 100,000 hours of content, but if you don't get the attention, you're just wasting your effort. So we have to have a proper plan to ensure that our content is worthy of their attention. And from what our strategy moving forward, in making sure that the clubs now is gaining the attention of fans, as opposed to fans being attracted to the Netflix of the world or other forms of vices. We have made sure that part of the club licensing criteria for the football clubs is to grow their social media fan base and content and engagement. That is the criteria that we're setting. So if you do not pass that criteria, it would be very hard for you to get the club license. That's our strategy.
So this would be the part of the privatization for next year, right? You mean that?
Yes.
As in, okay.
Yes,
So social media is
It's
very
not-
important
it's
for
not
all the
going to
clubs.
But one of it. It's not going to be a hard and fast, like you have to do this already. It will be a gradual change, but we need to start somewhere.
Definitely. I mean, great stuff, Winnie. I want to move on to you now, Simon. I mean, what are some examples of LaLiga's commercial partners who have activated and engaged with fans creatively? Like, for example, any challenges, or like, for example, what Winnie mentioned just now. A little bit difficult to get these fans on TikTok, but is there any examples you can let me know as well with regards to LaLiga's commercial partners?
Yes, so the two angles here, I mean, Winnie talked about, the content strategy. I'm going to take a slightly different angle from a commercial perspective, like partner perspective, and also a platform rather than, well, as Winnie mentioned, the Netflix, we now seems to be, we La Liga see ourselves competing with the likes of Netflix, and that's something that, most of the rights holder are changing their mindset in these days. So first thing with the partners is, for many of our partners, the pandemic has brought about a need to actually rethink fan engagement along with ourselves, La Liga here. I would say that, the shift of transition of our partners were not as drastic, but at the same time, we always highlight that the partnership with La Liga, going back to the point that I made earlier on, it goes beyond 90 minutes and brings, we also work with brands to actually bring the narrative into the wider football fandom. So this is how we see it. One of the great examples that we work with a partner, a global partner here, is with Budweiser, who has activated and engaged with fans creatively, taking a content-led approach as well to kind of maintain that fan engagement. There was an article on our a few days ago on our website, which I'll forward later on. That places very strong emphasis on digital activation and continue to build its global audience through campaigns that celebrate the kings of the game. Whilst the majority of engagement that Budweiser see is through digital and social campaigns, such as this Kings Collapse, where they match the world's greatest players with the hottest up-and-coming creators, fashion, designers, etc., in different parts of the world to create the ultimate football collection. So this is quite an interesting one. It's fan engagement, but actually there's a participation element there involved in artists. So it involves partner, fans, and of course the Liga. So it's the Trinity. And producing short films that, short form content that explore intimate storytelling with artistic creation and owning the football passion, the wider narrative. And that's one example of, the great activation with a partner involving fans. But on the platform side, it's always expanding different platforms. And Kike was mentioning earlier on, Facebook, 700 million fans, the biggest stadium on earth. David also mentioned that we have been on Facebook, since we have an agreement, first of the kind broadcast agreement with Facebook in India. So I just been turning in favor there, Kike. You mentioned La Liga a few times in yours. to help develop football cultures across the country. So being on Facebook created more opportunities for real-time engagement, which is something our office in India really considered very important for the growth. Also, you mentioned TikTok there, Ash. So with TikTok, we've done, again, with our partner early in the last season, is utilizing TikTok and social influencers, KOL, in the previous season to actually have an interactive virtual football filter, reaching fans in more than 40 countries. So this is one of the big football challenge to date that we've done with, I think that scored over 60 million views and 4 million interactions.
Great stuff, Simon. I mean, I've got a couple of Q&As coming, which I will ask. It's actually about Facebook. So I think, KK, that one's going to be for you. But before that, Janna, according to a recent report by Deloitte, obviously, football clubs are said to be under pressure to provide sponsors with an understanding of their fans, including measuring the impact of their marketing campaigns, right? So how do they tailor their campaigns to Asian fans, and how are they going to measure the success of said campaigns?
I guess to measure success, it has always, for clubs or even federations and leagues, it has always been about follower growth and engagement. This year has actually brought unprecedented challenge to right holders, when dealing with sponsors or even broadcasters. So I guess one thing for sure is we can't treat Asia like it's just one place, because with so many countries, we have different traits, different habits. Like to quote Winnie, she actually said that Malaysians are really shy, and I truly agree with her, because Malaysia is also in one of the market for some of our clients. So I guess if I can quote, if I can actually give an example, would be the AIA, David Beckham and Spurs. I think that's a very good way of tailoring to the current situation, where they actually brought in, with Spurs bringing in the local talent, Son Heung-min, which is actually the pride of Asia, I guess, not just for Korea. But yeah, so it's tailoring to different markets, and understanding that doing this kind of localization and sharing healthy living, which was very apt and very timely, especially during the lockdown and during the pandemic, where everyone has become truly health conscious. So I guess that campaign was very timely at that point of time. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember that campaign actually, and it was very much on social media, and everyone was interacting with it in some way. So, Kiki, I want to go back to you, back to community building, where, I mean, you mentioned Facebook is the leader, and with everyone in isolation, I want to ask, how has the platform's tools, for example, you see a lot of live streaming and like e-commerce live, how has this helped fans feel closer to their favorite football stars, and what tools would you recommend to help brands or sponsors out there engage closely with their followers and fans in Asia?
Yeah, the mission of Facebook is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. And everything we do at Facebook, every product we develop is intended to fulfill that mission. And I think during the lockdown, we have seen more than ever the power of Facebook tools to bring people closer together. You don't have to think about Facebook or Instagram as just one standalone platform. You have many products within every two apps. Think about Live, think about the messaging apps. During the lockdown, for example, we launched Facebook Rooms, who allow you to make big video conference with up to, I think it was like 50 people at the beginning, and now it's even more. I think the biggest mistake some people make when they look at the strategy of Facebook and Instagram is that they look at it as one app product. And actually within Facebook and Instagram, you have many apps and many products, depending on how the user is consuming the content. We have identified mainly, we like to classify the way people engage with our tools in two ways. One is on the go, like what we call on the go, which are the shorter sessions where you open your app, you scroll through your feed, and you intend to discover content. And then you have like the more captivating views. These are less frequent sessions, but are more planned. And your ultimate goal is to is to entertain yourself, and you try to look for content proactively. So I think the goal, when you think about your content strategy, you need to think about the different ways and think about where you're going to put your content. It's not going to be the same, the video that you're going to put for someone to watch on Instagram TV or in IGTV or in Reels, where you have like shorter form. So I think the most important thing is to look at all the platform and try to create content adapted to every single use case.
I want to ask, because we have a Q&A coming on board, and there's a question about Facebook from Rana Gosal. And this ties in with what I think Simon said earlier on about the strategy in India. So the question is, how is the Facebook-only strategy in India giving you results in terms of average attendance per match, duration of watching per match? So do you want to answer that question? It's from Rana Gosal, I mean.
Yes, of course. I think we have seen incredible growth year over year. I don't have now the exact number on the top of my head, but the average session was really impressive. But the majority of the consumption comes from mobile, and we are very excited about this unique partnership. And the most important thing is that we're changing user behavior. The first season was kind of a test, and we were learning a lot. On the second season, we saw more than 200% growth, and we've seen even this season more growth. El Clásico drove a peak live concurrent viewers of more than 500,000 people watching live and commenting live during the game. But it's very hard to tell you what's the average, because you have big matches that drive massive peak viewers and other matches that are more on average. But the most important thing is that all the games are broadcast, and a hardcore fan can see everything and don't miss anything, and that's the most important thing.
Well, I guess we don't have much time left, but I just want to get a quick overview from each of you. Which country, or based on the poll, do you think that I guess corporate partners need to focus on in Asia more? Winnie, for example, you're from Malaysia Football League, so perhaps Malaysia is a country that sponsors should be looking
I have to say Malaysia. Yes, I have to say Malaysia.
What about you, Janna? Just a quick perhaps
think,
tip for
I guess if I have to pick a country, it will be India. As much as India is big on cricket, but I guess the growing number of fans for football is massive. I've seen a lot of viral tweets on Twitter or even from Facebook where anything that you localize for football, localized content for football in India, you go viral and you go big. So that's where I realized that football is going to be very massive in India, and it's no doubt about that. Yeah, it's a market to look out for. Yes.
So it's India for you. What about you, Simon? A quick one.
It's always a tough question, because as every country is different, especially in my position. But at the same time, we have a different strategy for each of them. But if I really have to pick one or two, it's a tough one. I would say from a LaLiga point of view, Japan or Indonesia, these two, major countries. Population-wide potential, Indonesia. Nothing wrong, of course, Malaysia as well, Winnie, but Japan also with a very strong relationship there, and with the players there, with the hero. So I'm going to take say Japan and then Indonesia in that sense.
All right, I guess for Kike, you would say globally. That would be Facebook's notion of reaching to all the platforms, right?
Yeah, that's just the advantage of being at a global platform. But at the end of the day, the potential, it depends on what you're targeted, and it doesn't matter where that person is. The important thing is to reach the user you want to reach at your target audience.
Yeah,
I love it, Ash. You've put them on the spot with that final question, and I have to say, Simon, you were just obviously worried about maybe annoying one of the many 17, 18, 44 nations that you represent for La Liga. So very diplomatic answer from you. Well done, everyone. Listen, I thought that was a brilliant session, guys. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to sum up very briefly, because I'm going to have to get off and quickly launch the next session very quickly. But to do so, Simon talked about being beyond the 90 minutes. stories that resonate deeply. The power of having boots on the ground, La Liga Global Network, local knowledge, the Betis and Leganes activations you talked about. Janna also talking about that beeline for content and fan watching, like just watch-alongs, those kind of activations. I think they're really, really important. They're very popular right now. And talk about PSG with the Champions League final. In fact, we had their CPO on yesterday, Mark Armstrong, who very much echoed those thoughts. Kike, of course, Facebook, the biggest stadium in the world, but it's not just a one app offering. Talk about Facebook rooms, put all of the portfolio together and you really get the benefit. And also the Barcelona Q&A with the players, but also Helsinki from La Casa de Papel or Money Heist, it's known. I tell you what, if I'd known about that, I would have come and watched it. But next time, can you bring me Tokyo? Can you also bring me Lisboa? Can you also bring me Stockholm? And I will be there, my friend. I'll be right there, front and center, watching that Q&A. Winnie, Facebook, of course, biggest platform for you guys in Malaysia. Interesting to know that the Malaysian fans are shy and that they don't create as much, but they do share. It's an interesting, behavioral custom that's important for anyone who wants to come to Malaysia to know about how it works over there. So listen, loads of really good intel. Thank you so much, guys. Fantastic discussion. Ash, as always, pleasure to work with you, my friend. Really, really enjoyed that. Right, we are going to head out and we're going to move now, talking about creative engagement strategies to creative content. Yeah, it's going to be a really good session, this next one. Make sure you stay with us here on WFS Live on Day 4.